Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor Templar here, and we're going to talk about extraterrestrials. Now, extraterrestrials are a fact. They've been coming here for thousands of years. They have huge lifespans. They don't see reality anyway as Earth beings do. And with Earth beings, as long as they live such a tiny span, will never act properly. And they are nothing more than hybrids of these aliens anyway. They populated the Earth for good or bad with this kind of bizarre psychotic species and have been manipulating it, and some think unsuccessfully for many years, where this environment just warps people's minds. But I tend to think that there's a bigger plan here. I think all of this very bizarre happenings to this planet, its self-destructive nature, is being done deliberately. By these hostile extraterrestrial groups that don't really see us as any more than zoo pets. We're here for a purpose. The fact that there are many different types of species here and that they are interacting and have been for many years certainly shouldn't be surprising, and they certainly do not look strange or unusual. They may have strange and unusual habits, and there's certainly a lot of very odd people out there. That don't seem to fit and really don't seem to come from this planet. Where are you from? How are you operating like this? So this is a reality. There are books, The Aliens Among Us and The Threat, which talk about some of the more radical and dire things that most probably are happening. David Icke talks about the reptilians and how they've taken over bodies. Why not? You know, the kind of abilities to do these things shouldn't be very difficult. As we get less and less physical as an understanding, and this is what the occult sciences are all about, using basically I don't say non-physical, less physical. We're using energy fields. Well, you take your energy field, your consciousness, which is immortal, and you move it into wherever you want. Well, of course, you'd move that body, if you're an extraterrestrial, into John Smith, who works at the local Stop and Go, right? Well, isn't that ridiculous? Why wouldn't you move your consciousness into world leaders and other things that can mess with society, cause more conflict, cause more chaos for your personal desires, or maybe for even entertainment? So, who knows what's going on? But why wouldn't you take over individuals that have power and do things? I mean, it just makes sense. The point is, we don't know exactly what's happening here because it's extremely complicated. There are androids such as the Greys that are coming here and doing experiments. There's so many other ones, and there certainly are those that are living on this planet and intermixing with us on all sorts of levels. Now, this has again been verified by third-party sources that are virtually endless. I mean, all you have to do is read these books that are out there, some by credible people, other by as not, but the point is everybody's telling stories like this. What are we to make of all this? Again, it's consistent. The presence on this planet, which is a unique planet. Let's get real here. There isn't that many planets, particularly like this, that have formed. And I believe this planet was formed and is assisted in being formed by extraterrestrials purposely. They can wait. They live for hundreds, maybe millions of years. Maybe they live forever. What do they care if you start some seeds here and you come back 10 million years later? Then they start intervening on all sorts of levels for our own personal enjoyments, growth, and so forth. We certainly can't think that extraterrestrials are much different than we are in terms of their emotional setup, their desires, their requirement for food, all the things that happen. These things must be intrinsically part of them and then modified in some particular fashion. Certainly, most extraterrestrials tend to look like Earth beings because this is a perfect way. You're going to be standing up, you're going to have hands and legs because this is what is required to really make anything and to function past a animal level. While most animals on this planet are much more intelligent than man, but without arms and legs, they're helpless to develop. But what has developed? What do we have an entire history of this planet of? Of goofball thinking, self-destruction, murder, and torture of our own type and the planet. And we're so psychotically motivated as a species that we have things like nuclear power plants that could destroy us all because we want to turn on a radio. We fight and murder each other by the billions everywhere. This doesn't make any sense. It goes against all logic, even the ridiculous understandings of evolution. Doesn't make sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. So somebody is messing with the human or earth being gene pool and has been for millions of years. Now, some think that this is an experiment by them gone wrong, that they tried to make better people but didn't. But we don't know if that's true or not. Point is, everything is a mess. It's not getting any better. There is a spiritual evolution here. This is the hell plane. Well, they certainly haven't changed any of this. So we don't know what's happened here and what kind of consciousness. They've taken beings and pushed certain belief systems into them to control them from religion and other things. None of it has worked. Has this been deliberate or just a giant screw up? So you don't know if anyone, and they may not even know themselves, is an extraterrestrial or not. Certainly could be the fact that people do everything that is against their nature to destroy this planet and to destroy everybody on it seems to make a psychotic way of functioning that doesn't make any sense. It has to get to the point where it really appears to be engineered. Why don't we have giant hospitals everywhere? Why aren't we putting every penny into understanding our brain and consciousness so that we can live longer and healthier? Well, that's what everybody wants, isn't it? Everybody wants to live long, healthy with their, quote, family. They want to keep their parents, their children, their daughters, their pets. Everybody wants. Why aren't we doing this? We're doing virtually none of this. Why? Well, that causes stabilization. If we lived longer, I think the world would be a much better place. We'd be more concerned what happened 20, 30, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. We wouldn't be as self-destructive. We'd say, well, we don't want to trash this. My kids are going to be here 100 years from now. We better make sure that none of that is reality. Why? Well, this doesn't make any sense, people, no matter how you look at it. The diversities of humans are very slight, but that's all people get involved in. People get involved in their goofy little cultural belief systems, which are quite radical in this world. The difference between cultures, even within countries. The Southern culture in the United States is way different than New York and California. These are entirely different cultures. Why? Why is there no participatory to have us work better, for us to have those things that make our life better, and when we're just about taking what we want in short-sighted stupidity? Why are we destroying this planet? Why are we using nuclear energy when we have hydrogen that is workable? All of this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And as such, it is bizarre, and to an extent that it absolutely is psychotic on every single level. How can we in any way justify this as a species? And it's a species that's been around for a long time, but the human species has progressed extremely slowly until the last 40 years. There was little difference from the 10th century to the 16th, to the 18th century. Virtually no technology kicked off until the 19th century, and only then to a very short and mild amount. Now we're supposedly moving ahead rapidly, which, if we believe science, we are somewhat, even though the only thing we really have is the internet and phones, which is nothing more than glorified communication devices and filing cabinets that are now at your... It's like having a library in your house. I'm not sure what more than that it does. It still isn't helping to any great degree. It allows access to things you never would have in the past, or not never. I mean, it took a lot more work. I've spent, I don't know how many years of my life in libraries. So all of this is part of this process that we need to understand. And what is going on here? Well, this is completely wacko. So, as far as I'm concerned, the only conclusion we can come to right now is that we are occupied by an evil extraterrestrial race that is using us for whatever they decide to. There may be positive races. They may be working together. There appears to be a intergalactic good against evil battle, as usual, comes out. A kind of cliche-ish Hollywood movie, Star Wars scenario. This tends to be what's going on. Now, what's happening, who's winning, what's a part of it? Well, certainly the Earth species has shown itself to be a horrific group, and certainly is not valued by any extraterrestrial groups that I have ever had contact with. No one gives a damn about Earth beings, for obvious reasons. Look outside your window. So what does that mean? So the destruction of this planet, the radiation levels going up on this planet that certain extraterrestrials prefer is what is happening. So they're customizing the environment for themselves, and if it takes, nobody wants to make a big mess, what do they care? They have hundreds of thousands of years, so if it takes them 200 years to manipulate this planet in the way they want, so what? Now, you as a human, an Earth being, thinks that that's ridiculous because of your pathetic lifespan. But that's what's going on, people. That's what's part of this bigger mix that we're dealing with. And it's just plain and simple a reality. There's too much information and knowledge out there from not only me, but other third parties that confirm all this. The breakthroughs and technologies and other things are directly connected to extraterrestrial reversed engineer or even provided information to some degree. This, again, is another fact. And while we live with tinker toys and crappy pollution machines, the government is having anti-gravity devices traveling the stars using what could be called, quote, warp drives and going to different planets and other places while we are still living basically in comparison on a skateboard. This is a reality. Now, how all this affects yourself in your life, well, it's all just part of the bigger mix. And it does affect you. Your life is controlled by this. Monies are going to projects that further other people's goals, which are just plain bogus. Like the Mars program, which wants to take billions, if not trillions of dollars, and put it into tinker toy technologies that are worthless. But it's not really going there. It's going in the pockets of a bunch of criminals and other people, and they're going to use it for what they want. This is part of what's going on because people put up with this. People want to think and operate in this goofball fantasy that we're living in. And the bottom line is that we are living in a total and complete fantasy, and everything we believe is a lie.